The Prime Minister Narendra Modi there laid the foundation stone for the new Parliament building, which is expected to be completed by 2022 at an estimated cost of around 970 crore rupees. The event began at 1 p.m. and it began with the Sarva Dharma Prarthana, or an interfaith prayer. And the Prime Minister, in his address on the occasion, said that the new building will showcase India's cultural diversity and also will showcase the aspirations, or will be a testament to the aspirations of 130 crore Indians as well. A grand ceremony there being conducted, the Prime Minister laying the foundation stone of the new Parliament building, which is expected to be completed in about 2 years' time. And it will bring out the true identity of India, is what the Prime Minister also brought out there. To talk about this, I have with me on the program right now Shekhar Iyer, senior journalist, and Yogendra Narayan, former Secretary General of the Rajya Sabha as well. Mr. Iyer, let me come to you first. Let's first understand and analyze the key takeaways there from the Prime Minister's address on this occasion.
Well, I think it was one of his most impassioned plea to all the parliamentarians, present and future, to dedicate themselves to the service of the nation. And he put it very beautifully that in our tradition, we talk of prana pratisht, that is infusing the spirit into a piece of stone so it becomes the deity. Similarly, this building is not just of stones, but it's going to be infused with the spirit of service and dedication by every member of parliament. And the ultimate goal, or the ultimate driving call, is going to be service towards the nation for its people. The way one of his most favorite, I would say, the mantra that he has always been saying since 2014 when he took the office of the Prime Minister is nation first. We may have our differences, we may have our political ideologies, but let us be guided by the principle of serving the nation. What is that ultimately going to benefit this country? And in fact, he recalled that just as Swami Vivekananda had given a call for next 50 years, let us dedicate ourselves for the country, which is personified as Bharat Mata. Similarly, the Prime Minister wanted that when we celebrate our 100 years of existence as the great country, let us also dedicate ourselves towards this nation first, where nothing will matter other than its progress, its development, and its people. I think this is a very beautiful way of appealing to each and every person who is in the public walk of life, and to not look at this project as some kind of engineering feat, but rather as something that is going towards building this country for the generations to come, Frank.
And Mr. Narayan, let me come across to you now. You had the Prime Minister as well. What was the significant highlight for you?
For me, the first thing is it was a highly motivational speech, both for the legislators, the present legislators, and those who are aspiring to become legislators in the future. Together with this, he did not only emphasize on the legislators, he also emphasized on the citizens of India, that it is equally important that the citizens of India keep this factor in mind, that they have to take this country forward. And as Swami Vivekananda motivated them from 1897, he is now motivating them also to work for the nation, for the greatness of the nation. He very clearly stated that dissensions and discussions are a part of democracy. But what should ultimately prevail is for the persons to decide what is the nation in need of. And it's the nation that comes first, should always come first, and not the citizens or the legislators' individual needs. So we have to give service to the nation. And in a parliamentary democracy, everyone is going to play his role in the success of democracy. It's not only parliamentarians. Parliament is a building where parliamentarians will sit, discuss, highlight the issues of the citizens. But it is the citizens who have to also play their role, and they have to ensure that the legislators whom they elect are those who are suitably fit for these duties, these functions. He quoted the inscription in Chennai, which mentioned who are those who are not fit or eligible to become legislators. He's gone very deep into those matters. And I think this is a question which each citizen should ask for himself before he votes. And every party should ask of itself when it selects the nominees for the elections or the candidates for the elections. And we have to fill ourselves with this national fervor of development, of taking this country forward, of making India the first in the committee of nations. So he's motivated all of us, not only legislators but citizens, because in a democracy, everybody has a role to play. It's not only legislators. And I think that message has gone very clearly forward. Thank you.
Right. So, Mr. Iyer, another important aspect, let's take up some of these aspects that the Prime Minister spoke about and take them forward as well. He spoke about how, it's very important in a democracy to always have differences and have a mechanism to resolve these differences as well. And that's what makes a democracy vibrant. He says we have to keep that spirit alive and take that spirit forward as well of India being a vibrant and, a flourishing democracy.
Indeed, Frank, because what the Prime Minister sought to emphasize was our democratic traditions are not something that has been borrowed from the West. Rather, they are something rather deeply, enmeshed in our traditions. Even though we have had kings and queens and we have had rulers, but essentially we were democratic by very nature. I think, and he drew the fact that he mentioned about Basavappa, the famous, the guru of people of Karnataka, those who follow the Basavappa religion, where he had this Hanubhav Mandapam, where exactly like people's council, where every ideas could be discussed, a kind of a Jan Sabha. Similarly, he recalled the inscriptions that is found near Chennai, right from the period of Chola dynasty of the 10th century, where the panchayat was a kind of a forum where people, voiced their views. So, and also, as Yogendraji mentioned about the eligibility of people to be public representatives, he who could not disclose his assets could not be worthy of representing people. Now, the whole idea that the Prime Minister was saying was, look, when we have a tradition in democracy, so our institutions are deeply strengthened always. So all this talk of democracy coming in danger, or all these sometimes Western concepts are superimposed to show that, because he also recalled right at the time when we got independence, there were so many doomsayers who said that this country will never progress. It will fight among itself and it will collapse. But that did not happen. Now, when we look back after 70 years or so, you see that this country is still very vibrant, and some of its democratic traditions. We have never had a military coup, unlike in our neighborhood. We have never had a system where somebody has killed someone to occupy. I mean, at least post independence, we have never seen that kind of thing, because our traditions are essentially dialogue. And he recalled Guru Nanak Ji's the famous saying that the dialogue, the samvad, should continue till the end of the universe. So long as the universe exists as it is, the dialogue among the mankind should continue. Therefore, we have a tradition. Let us strengthen those traditions. Let us, despite our differences, there may be different approaches, but our goal is the same. That goal is progress of this nation. That goal is taking care of the very poor people. That goal is to see that every individual is able to work up to his or her potential, because that is democracy, means opportunity for every citizen. So I think when you talk of a new building, it is also important we understand what does the new parliament building will signify, just as the old parliament stood. Because the old parliament, as the Prime Minister said, it has also seen, right from the infancy of this country to where it stands today as an independent India. And the new building is going to see the future, building up on our strength, building up on our what is inherent in us. I think this is a day that will go down as a very important, because it's only a small stone that we is usually laid as a foundation, as shilanyas, a symbolic thing. But the values that are there, those values will determine how we move forward, Frank.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Narayan, since we are here, let's talk about how the Prime Minister spoke about, renewing democracy as well, and what better place to, of course, the democracy is being renewed even as we speak. There are several reforms, several changes that have taken place. But what better to see it happening in a new building and a new complex as well?
Yes, certainly. It depends on our legislators as well as our presiding officers, how they carry this parliamentary democracy forward. And as Mr. Iyer said, conventions and traditions play a big role. And I think there are three things very essential in a democracy, especially in a parliamentary democracy. One is that the people must have faith in their legislators, number one. And the legislators must have faith that they can discuss, have dissensions with the ruling party, but their purpose remains to make the country great, to move the country forward, to take the country forward. And third, the institutions which are, often call them constitutional authorities, but apart from parliament, the ecosystem of democracy is what is important, whether it's the judiciary, the executive, together with parliament. I see a bright future for parliamentary democracy in India, because the way our media functions, the way public opinion is expressed and acted upon, and what better forum than parliament, where legislators are freely allowed to express their views, where whatever they say, there is an open, transparent system of a press gallery, a TV gallery, which highlights what the legislators are doing and lets the public know how their legislators are behaving. So there can't be a more transparent system. Whereas in other institutions like judiciary, we are now coming on gradually to publicizing the proceedings through TV, etc. Parliament already has that. And these traditions of transparency, I feel, need strengthening further and further. And the way the freedom to express one's views, the freedom for the political parties to create an atmosphere where discussion can take place and problems of the citizens can be highlighted. This is what a parliamentary democracy means. Parliament is not only a building, as the Prime Minister said. It's the place where you give ahuti. The ahuti meaning you offer, whether through legislators and other things, all the other essentials of democracy. You discuss honestly, you put your viewpoints fearlessly, and you highlight the problems of the citizens, common citizens. That is what is parliamentary democracy. A parliament building is a basic infrastructure where you have the facilities to do this. But what makes it lively, what makes it vibrant, what makes it alive is the people inside who continuously discuss, debate, bring forth viewpoints, differing viewpoints, and then come to a solution.
Absolutely.
He has rightly emphasized that you can have dissensions and issues with each other, but ultimately there must be a method to resolve these disputes. Today in Parliament we have rules of procedure, both in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, which guide the deliberations and which underline the basic structure of discussions, how they should be done. So we have these should be followed, because only a rule-based organization can be successful. in a democracy, if you go outside the rules and play outside the set structures, democracy will be in danger. So I hope that apart from the basic infrastructure of a parliament building, the men who run the building are equally important. As Ambedkar once said, our respected, honorable, venerable Dr. Ambedkar, you can create institutions, but it depends on the men who run it that actually the institution can function successfully. And I hope all our legislators will consider this aspect and ensure that the running of parliamentary democracy is fruitful and successful. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Iyer, another aspect to talk about clearly is, of course, what the Prime Minister said. He said that if the old Parliament House gave direction to post-independence India, the new building Bharat has seen prominence, of course, over the last 1 year or so, right through 2020. So giving focus once again through the building to Atmanirbhar Bharat, and also talking about how, the aspirational India's needs and demands need to be met as well.
Exactly. I think what the Prime Minister had in mind was this old Parliament House is a kind of a legacy that we received after independence. And it's a beautiful building, no doubt. It was a symbol of our birth, symbol of our constitution. It's a symbol of how we have progressed as a nation. But at the same time, when we are looking at a self-reliant India, this new building will show that this is something created in independent India, because a lot of what is Lutier's Delhi is rather something that was left behind. I remember visiting president of a neighboring country when he was here. He said, "Look, the British left you a lot of these things. They did not give us." The feeling that that this is all not created by Indians themselves. So therefore, I think what the Prime Minister says is, in the years to come, this building will be symbol of what we can achieve also on our own today, because these were all constructed in the 20s. And as I said earlier, this was not exactly intended as a Parliament of India. It was a part of a mechanism to have a devolution of powers. At that time, at that stage, there was no thought, relating to granting full, complete independence. The Purna Swaraj happened subsequently because of Mahatma Gandhiji's freedom struggle, where hundreds of Indians joined hands. So this new building is, see, we have fought and achieved our freedom. Now the other course is to achieve the fight against the economic disparities, the fight against the kind of difficulties we have seen, which is continuously challenges. So therefore, the new building with all its modern technology, see, today the governance has changed. See, you require real-time data, you require a lot of information, and the members of parliament, like the members of the government, equally are involved in decision-making process. So the modern technology helps you with the way the information is stored, accessed, and put to great use. So this new technology that is going to be used, as well as the fact that this will be a green building, an environment building that will conserve less energy, and will have all the ways of where the modern buildings are built. And we have already seen some of the constructions in Parliament complex, particularly the library building. They all conform to the green standards already. So what the Prime Minister says is, look, when we look at this building and the people are going to work in it, because that is why he spoke of Prana Pratishtha, and that can be only done by the members of parliament, because with the kind of spirit they come to this building, the spirit with which they will work, because ideally I think the goal is to have the parliament session when India celebrates the 75 years of independence in this new building. That is the target date. So naturally, when they come there, they will have to bring their entire being with them, the entire spirit, the entire energy, because that is how, because the future holds lot of challenges. See, whatever challenges we have faced in the nascent stage or in the stages when we attained freedom, and today our challenges are more on the economic side, and those challenges will require debate, discussion, and resolution of issues. Like already we are seeing on a matter like changes, reforms in the agriculture sector. So we need to engage in dialogue to understand issues. And the Prime Minister repeatedly said, let us work for the goal that brings the ultimate good. Because not individual good, not sectorial good or benefits. Because lot of measures will, some people will feel advantaged, some people will feel disadvantaged. But you think of the ultimate goodness of this country. Because all our action should look at that possibility. What is ultimately good for all of us? And the emphasis is on all of us. Frank.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mr. Narayan, let me go back to a point that you were making earlier. You're talking about institutions, you're talking about how institutions make democracies, how institutions keep democratic values in place and bring about the vibrancy as well. So, how do we build on what we have and make it better? How do we strengthen what we already have right now as far as institutions are concerned?
See, institutions can improve, first of all, if those people, as I said earlier, and as Dr. Ambedkar also said, the people who run those institutions are correctly selected, appropriately selected, have the good of the country in mind. So that is one. The second is a very vibrant public opinion, a very widely spread, I would call it a force, a public force to keep these institutions on track. Because unless the public participates in a manner where it can highlight its own views on these institutions, till then these institutions will not change. So a very strong forum where public opinion can express itself and be known. The public opinion should be known. And the authorities who run these or head these institutions should also be democratic in nature. They should welcome criticism. They should welcome suggestions from the public and welcome their shortcomings being pointed out. That will make these institutions strong. And I think for all this, ultimately, because it's we as members of the public who select our legislators, and then the legislators select the government, and the government selects these people who head the institutions. In a way, we are the ones who are ultimately running this country, and we must ensure that this power of the people is strongly, ensured and maintained. This power of the people, and the governments must recognize the fact that in a democracy, it's the people who matter, and if the people dissent or object, it is worth considering. It's not necessary. You see, what happens when I went to a place called Finland, for instance, we went on a parliamentary delegation once, and there I noticed a very unique committee, which is I have never seen in any other parliament. It's called Committee for the Future. So I asked this person, what is this Committee for the Future? They said this committee is only discussing that those problems which will emerge in the future. Technological problems, social problems, population problems, and they are considering those, how to resolve those or start resolving those from right now. So we need institutions who can look into the future, and analyze the problems and issues that are going to crop up. Because everything we welcome today, technology, we welcome today new technology, but this same technology can be very harmful in the later stage. So the committees for the future in each of these national institutions that have been set up should be a part of those organizations. So that what Mr. Modi, for example, is considering, he's considering the year 2047. What should be the status of the nation at that time? In that way, similarly, all the constitutional authorities, all the national institutions of the government and of the state should look into the future. And that is how these institutions will run efficiently and will produce the results we expect of them. Thank you.
Be futuristic, think at least a few decades in the future and then plan and build towards it from now itself so that we are better prepared when we get there, is what Mr. Narayan is suggesting. All right, so Mr. Iyer, talking about a few more aspects then and building on what Mr. Narayan has just said, You know, this is something that the Prime Minister has spoken about while he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat as well, during his early political years as well. He's been, chanting the development mantra all throughout. He spoke about today as well, so many years later into his politics. He's speaking about development. He talks about how development needs to see a new energy and a new kind of power to come in as well if you have to take it to the next level. Same thing that Mr. Narayan is suggesting as well. Think into the future and look at developmental goals that way so that you can actually achieve them.
Indeed, as Yogendraji was saying, that we have a tendency in this country in the last few years, which has manifested in the form of ad hocism, trying to do what is immediately is possible or can be done and be done with. But whereas the people who are in public life, people they have to not only think of the problems of the future, they have also to anticipate the issues that will emerge and the solutions that have to be found today. In fact, if you look at countries in the West, particularly America and some countries in the Europe, they always think of the future also, along with the challenges that are posed in the present. But let's take, for instance, the problem of environment. Environment is largely a problem of the future. And the problem which can be sown now, the seeds of which can be sown now by our uncareful actions, by our insensitive ways of doing things. So, see, not just the environment, there are several other things which requires we leave this world a better place than we found it when we came on this universe. So, therefore, we owe it to the coming generations, to our children, to our grandchildren, and their children, that we constantly do things that are sustainable, that constantly takes care of the present as well as is in a way looks at the problems of the future. So all these things require that a simple admission that none of us are born with some great wisdom and none of us can claim that we know everything. That is why the democracy is so essential for us, because democracy means debate. Democracy means pooling of ideas. And none of us can assume, no, what I say is the best, what I know is the best, because none of us have answers. Yes, there may be some answers, there may be partial answers, but none of us are born with that kind of wisdom, to always provide every solution to every problem. So therefore, this parliament as a forum which can debate, which can come with solutions, and solutions have been done before. I know many legislations that were passed in parliament by either house where a lot of things have happened, where discussions and ideas from the opposition, from the ruling side, from individual members, even let us say a legislation like GST, even GST saw a lot of discussion which comes to us our immediate mind, and ideas have come. And yes, see, after every election there will be somebody who will be given the mandate to form the government. But equally important is the mandate that is given to some parties to be the opposition. And in our scheme of things, the opposition and the government actually play both an important role, because the government job is to legislate and to administer and to provide governance. And the opposition job is also to see that the governance is administered as per the norms. But what happens is those who are, see themselves in the opposition are not willing to accept the mandate. So they are not willing to wait for 5 years or 10 years. They feel that, look, that and they feel that it is they who should have been in power, and the other person doesn't have the right to be in power. Similarly, those who come and sit in the government feel that opposition is constantly only putting hurdles, rather than looking at the opposition as also an important partner of country's progress and development. Requires some attitudinal change, because if, as the Prime Minister says, if our objective, either you belong to the treasury benches or to the opposition benches, if you are guided by the principle of, just, working towards the country, if it is country that comes first, if it is nation that comes first, perhaps our attitude will be different, because it doesn't matter which party rules, A or B or C, but we are working towards that goal. And a number of opposition leaders have a lot of experience. They have also served in the year, and similarly, those who are in the government have also spent a lot of time in the opposition. So they also know what are the problems, what are the ways of doing it. So let us hope that this occasion also provides, some kind of a food for thought for all our public servants, for all those who are in public life, to, look at the way things are going on and to see that when we celebrate our 75 years of independence, we are truly the mother of democracy, as the Prime Minister said today, that we are not just a model of democracy, but we are actually mother of democracy, Frank.
Absolutely. All right. So, Mr. Narayan, let me bring in another aspect as well, since we're talking so much about the parliament and since we're talking about the citizens of this country. How do we build a better connect between parliamentarians and or lawmakers and the citizens of the country, and also, the values of parliament and the citizens themselves? How do we make them more aware about these aspects?
Well, I think that is the basic dilemma of a democracy. How elected representatives connect to the list, to their constituency, and how they can highlight the issues of the constituency, and how the citizens can also help. You see this, you often heard and read in the press that once a member gets elected from a constituency, the only next time they see him is after 5 years or 4 years. They don't see him in between. There's a disconnect, as I feel, between the legislator and his own constituency. Then there are certain laws like the anti-defection law, which, in my opinion, bring about a disconnection also in the way, because the elected legislator has then to express and go along with the views of his party on every matter. Unlike USA, where, Republicans can dissent against their own Republican president. Here they cannot. They will face the anti-defection law if they do it. And if they want to highlight the problem of their constituency, they have to ensure that it is not critical of the policies of the government. So I think, in my opinion, the legislator should have greater freedom to express himself. And there should be a performance. I mean, let me repeat a thought which I have always pressed everywhere. There should be a performance audit of the working of each legislator in his constituency. What has he done for his constituency? That should be his character role. I mean, that should be, in a way, it should bring out what activities or what policies or what developments he's brought about in his constituency. And I think that is very essential, because if the legislator is not shown face to face by the public as to what he has not done and what he has done, he will never realize his shortcomings. So a performance audit in governments and departments, we have now started having performance audits, performance reports. Similar, there should be performance audits of the working of the legislators, and this could be done by independent agencies.
Right.
We have several agencies, autonomous organizations, NGOs, who are doing a lot of work in the finance field, economics field, who come out with very independent assessments. Similarly, I think a stage has been reached where we should have performance audits of the working of our legislators, and this should come out in some report of Parliament.
Right.
All the 545 legislators of Lok Sabha, what have they done in their constituency? And Parliament should start printing and publishing a report, performance report of each of the legislators in a compendium, which can then be distributed to the public also. And because somewhere we have to ensure that the legislators perform the jobs they were expected to perform.
Absolutely.
And this performance audit will be like a character role of a government servant. I mean, in a way, because it will tell the public what he has actually done and what he has not done, and then let the public decide on whether they should have him for the next elections or not.
True.
So that would be my suggestion for connecting the public with the legislators and the citizens together.
Okay. Right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me on the program. and sharing your views and putting things into perspective for us. That's it on this special telecast. See you again next time.
पुण्डरीकाक्षः पुनातो पुण्डरीकाक्षः पुनातो पुण्डरीकाक्ष